morning, everyone. Welcome back to Kenny's Life Thoughts in Retirement. And appreciate you taking the time again to watch my video today. It's cold outside. I believe it's 32. It was the coldest morning so far this winter. It was down to 26, I think it was last night. The east wind's blowing in town. That's a pretty common thing. They call it a gap wind. The gorge sucks the cold air, through the gorge and hits East County and parts of Portland pretty bad. Up here, it's surprisingly pretty calm, a little bit breezy, but you go a mile or so to the north, and the wind will get your attention. Up at Crown Point, I mean, you're talking hurricane type winds, 100 mile an hour at least sometimes. I don't know what it is today, but last few days it's been pretty windy down there, and that wind is just sucking down through the gorge and taking all that cold air from the north and shoving it through the system there. But up here, surprisingly, it's just cold. A lot of frost on the pumpkin this morning, but other than that, it is the coldest morning so far this winter. I got a fire started to help compensate for that. Let's get right into the subject today. Today's video is going to be named "Mirror, Mirror on the Wall," and you can see the mirror, I think, right here. I don't want to show the whole thing only because my ring light there will reflect in there, and makes it look kind of funky. But anyway, you can kind of get the idea. That mirror right there. We're going to discuss that mirror and a few things that are related to that mirror today. Again, I look at these scenarios that happen and stories that go on, and they're profound to me when they happen. And I don't know if people find them interesting or not, either here nor there at this point, because I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. And if you have any similar stories or things that have happened that are like these ones that I'm explaining, please share them. So my dad's mother, my grandmother, lived in Southeast Portland, and that's where my dad grew up, my uncle. And my grandmother I was very close to. We had a connection that it's a bit, and it's hard to explain, but we were very, very close. And as you know, my dad passed away in 1967, and she did what she could to keep me informed as to the type of person that my dad was, even though he died at a very young age. He was only 24, I believe it was. But she kept his quote unquote spirit alive, if you will, by talking to me throughout the years. And I would ask questions about my dad, and she had no problems telling me, stories about him and stuff. But anyway, I was very close to her, and she would tell me things, not only about my family members, my dad and my uncle, and of course my grandfather, but whom I was named after. She would also tell stories about her childhood. She, an old person that liked to talk, and I was a willing participant, if you will. I loved listening to her tell me stories. And one of the things that she used to tell me was she would talk and discuss at length about this mirror. And, I think that, sorry about that. I had a little message popping up on my screen there, and I wasn't sure what it was. Anyway, she would talk about this mirror pretty extensively and its history. I'm not going to go into the full history about the mirror itself, because it's kind of a lengthy thing, and I don't think people would find it all that interesting, other than the fact that it was an important piece of her history. and very important. As a matter of fact, not only did she bring it up, she brought it up on several occasions and wanted me to know that this mirror is a family heirloom, basically. And, I took it to heart and, listened to her tell the story and didn't think a whole lot of it other than, it was important to her. So, I'll just log it and keep it in the back of my head. And so, again, a very important piece to her, and she wanted to make sure that I was aware of it. So, about the mid to late 90s, somewhere around 95, 96, 97, somewhere in there, she was diagnosed with cancer and had to go in for surgery to help remove this tumor that was in her body. And she never really quite recovered from that. She got real weak. Um, when she left her home to go have that surgery, she never came back home. She was so weak and frail after that surgery, and it did something to her mental capacity as well. The trauma of that surgery really impacted her. And my brother and I were forced into making some really, really tough decisions about her care. And we ended up having to put her in a rest home. It was a privately run rest home uh, over in Northeast Portland. It was really nice. People there were just wonderful. But it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life, and probably to this day. Um, Not only were we faced with having to deal with that, but we had to come up with cash. I covered the expense of the rest home for a while, as long as I felt comfortable doing that. But in the meantime, I was busily trying to assess where she was financially, and she had assets. She had a couple of lots down at the coast. We quickly sold those and basically gave them away because we needed the cash, to take care of her. And one of the other things that we did, which is, I don't wish this upon my worst enemy, is having to go through her personal belongings. Um, you know, that was a very, very difficult thing for me to have to do. I did not enjoy it one bit, and I just wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. We hired a state of Oregon sanctioned, you know, uh, company that came in and did an assessment of everything that was in her house. She had a 3-level house. It was an attic, a main floor, and a basement, and it was full. It was full of stuff. She did not throw anything away. Had a lot of family stuff in there, heirlooms and things, some of which we kept, but most of it went in the sale that they had. This company was great. They were so professional. Again, it was state sanctioned, um, very professional. They come in, these estate sale people, they come in and they clean everything, they go through everything, they sort everything, and they price everything, and then they have a sale over a weekend. And that went on, and literally the last time I walked through her home, because we ended up having to put it on the market too at some point. The last time I walked through her house, one of the last times, uh, everything was gone, which was a bit alarming for me. It was strange to walk through her home and have everything completely gone. And the, um, you know, I still feel guilty even to this day. It's 2026, and I feel guilty to this day about it. And I can't help it. I have nightmares sometimes about it. But it was a necessary thing that we had to do. And so I'm walking through her home, all through up the attic, making sure just everything was gone. And I walk into her bedroom, and I just stood there, and I went, I wonder whatever happened to the mirror. And I went, oh, maybe it's still there. And her door was always open. She rarely did she have her door closed. But her door was always open, and it swung inside to the room. And I was in her bedroom. I walk over to the door, and I go to close the door, and that mirror is hanging on the door still. Now, it literally was the only thing that wasn't nailed down. It was the only thing left in the house. And I was just like dumbfounded by it. Oh my gosh, they thank God they didn't get this mirror, because I completely had forgotten about it, or wasn't thinking. I had so many things on my plate then that I wasn't thinking of the mirror. And it was in a lot rougher shape than what you see it today. The frame was old school. It was like literally uh, really, really rough. Um, I had it remirrored actually, because the mirroring was all screwy and messy. The little gingerbread ornate thing that goes, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a little ornate thing that goes around inside the frame there. I replaced the frame with a cherry frame. My brother and I did that. And I paint that, the little ornate thing was all, it had layers of paint on it. I painstakingly removed all the paint. It took me hours. Again, it was an important piece of history, and I'm so glad we got to save it. Anyway, it was the only thing left in the house, and I took it home. My brother and I, we rebuilt the thing, and I hung it above the mantle that the house we were living in at the time. After we finished it, and my grandma is still in her condition. She's losing her mental capacity. She certainly has lost all of her physical capacity, meaning she's wheelchair bound. She cannot stand on her own. She can't walk or anything like that. So I have it. We finish it. We fix it all up and make it nice and neat and everything. And I hung it above the mantelpiece in the house we were in. And it was a September of this year. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was 97-ish when this all was going down. It was a September day, and I like to bird hunt. I'm a bird hunter. I love it, although I have not done it as much as I would like to, but it's a passion of mine, and I love bird hunting. And so one day I decided, you know what? I'm just going to load up my hunting gear. I'm going to go up out of it's a Molalla River. It's south of here, the Molalla River drainage, and I knew a couple of neat spots for grouse, forest grouse, and mountain quail. So I grabbed my shotgun, I grabbed my stuff, I grabbed my hunting license, and away I go. And I'm up there at, I don't know, I was just a little bit past first light, so I left pretty early that day. And this day stands out to me quite a bit, because it was one of those types of days that were very, very memorable in so many different ways. Prior to me going on this bird hunt, I had never seen a bull elk in my life in the woods. Now, I had gone hunting for bull elk in eastern Oregon with Kathleen's dad on several occasions, but never did see a bull elk. I saw plenty of cows, but never a bull elk. And I was beginning to think if they even existed. Obviously, it was not true, obviously, but I'd never seen a bull elk. So I get out of my vehicle, and I'm parked at a locked gate, logging gate, forest gate. I can't remember who owned that property at the time, but it was you were able to go in there and hunt it if you wanted to, but you had to walk behind the gate, and it was a long walk. Got all my stuff together. I'm excited. Got my shotgun, and I'm just going to go take a stroll and hunt for a few hours. Well, I'm walking and I see a couple of quail, a covey of quail, and I get a couple of shots off. I think I might have been able to harvest one or two of them, but they were so fast and it surprised me because I was kind of in a dream state, just kind of walking and enjoying the day. With a beautiful day that day. I remember it being beautiful outside. I don't think I saw any grouse that day. I don't remember it, but anyway. So I'm walking up this old logging road and by myself, and this is before GPS and locator beacons and all that stuff. I don't even know if anybody knew where I was other than my vehicle's down at the hard road. So, if something would have happened, they would have found my vehicle down there. But anyway, I'm walking up this road and I hear all this crashing going on off to my right. And, um, wheezing and snorting and just a lot of fussing going on. I thought it was a bear at first. And rack. And then I could hear what to me sounded like antlers hitting brush. So I stop, and now my heart's pounding because I'm not sure what it is. And all I have is my 12 gauge shotgun on me. And all of a sudden, out pops this bull elk out from the brush, stands right on the edge of the road of the brush, and he's standing there, and he's got snot coming out his nose, his mouth. He's frothing. He's clearly rutting, which is he's, in the breeding mode, if you will. And I was like, whoa. And it was a nice bull. It was a big 6-point bull. And first time I'd ever seen a bull. I'm literally less than 40 yards from him. And he's just frothing at the mouth. He's excited. And yeah, I think he even bugled once when he was in the brush. And I just look at him and I'm going, well, if you charge me, I'm going to have to fire around. But all I have is a 12 gauge shotgun. So I lift up my shotgun and I just go bang like that. I didn't shoot. I just said bang. And that bull elk jumped up in the air about 400 feet. An exaggeration, but that's what it seemed like to me. Jumped, wheeled, and dove back down into the timber. I never saw him again, never heard him. He was gone. He was crashing through the woods. It sounded like a freight train going through there. I think there were other elk in there because it made so much. All the elk went. It sounded like there was a lot of elk in there. So there was probably cows. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, how special was that? Again, I'd never seen a bull elk in the woods, and that was exciting. So I was on cloud nine. I thought, man, no one's going to believe my story. But you know what? It's my story, and I love every second of it. It was so awesome. So I went beyond that, got up to the top of this logging road, and there's this big, huge clear cut and stuff, and I'm hiking, and I literally, because I was so excited, I hiked, I don't even know if I could guess how many miles it was. It was several, one way, and then I had to get out of there. But I remember coming back, and it was several hours coming back, and I made it back down. I barely made it back down to my vehicle because I was so exhausted. My legs were burning and cramping. I didn't have any water, of course, with me. I really was prepared that day. And I get down to my vehicle, I strip my hunting stuff off, unload my shotgun, and put everything away. And I get in my vehicle, and I just sat there, and I was just going, my God, that was awesome. Just being able to see that bull elk that day. I get home, and it's now dark, or getting to be dark, and I am tired. And I unload all my stuff out of the car, I go into the house. Kathleen's in there, and the girls were just little at the time. And I go and I sit in this formal living room where I had a chair sitting in there, and I sat down, and I end up falling asleep. But I'm in and out of falling asleep. I'm tired, and my legs are cramping. My calf muscles are burning, and my hamstrings. Every now and then I have to stand up. You get those leg cramps that get your attention, and I was just like, oh my God, it's painful. I'm trying to drink as much water as possible. Anyway, I finally sit back down in my chair and I'm in and out of sleep, and I finally fall asleep. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. I was just from pure exhaustion. And I don't know how much time had passed, but apparently at some point Kathleen came in and checked on me and was going to put me to bed because she said, you just need to go to bed. But anyway, she found me not in my chair, but standing with my arm rested on this mantle, and I was basically sleepwalking. And that's the only time I'd ever done anything like that. I don't ever remember being told that I sleptwalk. And anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm staring into the mirror, and she comes in and she goes, Ken, and she's trying to wake me up or whatever, and she's got her hand on my shoulder and she's kind of shaking me, Kenny. And I kind of come to, and I go, what? She goes, what are you doing? I go, what do you mean? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm standing here, I guess, apparently. And she goes, well, hey, you've been in here for a little while. Why don't you crawl into bed? And I said, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Again, I'm limping now. I've got blisters on my feet. I really walked a lot that day. I was so excited about what had happened, and I worked myself into exhaustion. And I go crawl into bed, and I don't know how much time. Again, I don't know how much time elapsed, but the minute my head hit the pillow, I was out. Kathleen tells me it was about a half an hour later, which I believe her. She was still up watching TV or something, and about a half an hour later, she comes in and she wakes me up. And she's having a hard time waking me up because I'm so tired. She wakes me up and she goes, Kenny, wake up. And she's crying. She goes, your grandmother passed away. I go, what? She goes, she died tonight. So I'm sorry, I got a little emotional there, but one of the greatest days in my life. It was so awesome, and one of the worst. It was pretty profound, and yeah, it's weird how things are connected like that. She passed away peacefully in her sleep in that rest home, and I like to think that she had something to do with that day. I really believe it, and um, that's my story for today. Sorry for getting emotional, but it's stuff like that that have happened to me that I like to share. And even though it's a really personal journey of mine, still, hopefully, it spurs on conversation and other scenarios that may have happened. This fire is warm. I'm actually starting to roast a little bit. I put this vest on. This vest, really nice vest that I had 4 months ago. I couldn't put it on because I was so heavy. A little sidetrack. I hopped on the scale today. Hi, baby, come here. I hopped on the scale today, and I'm measuring at 230, which for me, I'm about 10 pounds away from where I want to be. I'd like to get down to 220, but my clothes are fitting so much better now, and I was over 260 easy at the end of August when I started this thing. Anyway, but I'm roasting because I got this wool vest on, and this fire feels great. It's still pretty cold outside. 34. It's up to 34. What's it in here? It's 68 in here, but right next to this, it's about 5,000 degrees. Again, an exaggeration. I really, really want to say thank you for taking the time today, watching my video. I hope you find some fun in it, and some, maybe some inspiration, things that happen to us again, one of the best days of my life that day, and one of the worst days. And it was just, something pretty profound that happened. That mirror there hangs in my master bedroom, or the bedroom upstairs, and I get dressed in front of that mirror, and hopefully it doesn't end with my generation. It goes to one of my children, and they keep on the tradition of holding the story alive. As always, I really do, again, appreciate you taking the time. Be safe and be well. And as always, make good choices.